We welcome you back to the final round of the Swiss here at Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar Mana Clash. My name's Alec. I'm here with Volty. Volty, say hello.
Good to finally be on camera.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of opportunities today where it could have gone that way. Unfortunately, several things occurred. And due to the nature of teams, I mean, quite a lot of games go longer, people communicating back and forth. So none of the cool pre-prepared segments managed to make it to air. But at the same time, you know, I had plenty of airtime yesterday and excited to bring round 7.
Yeah.
I hear we have a good matchup. This is going to be the last round of Swiss. We have 4 to 5 teams. Coming into...
Oh, well, it's us again.
We have 4 to 5 to 6 teams in contention to make top 4.
Yeah, top 4 is always a tricky thing to work out. It's not always a clean cut, whereas in the top 8, often it can be a very simple tiebreaker math. As we're cutting down to it now.
All right, so it looks like we have a bus stop team on the left, which means we'll have JLS. And on the right hand, we have a Melbourne team here, Nathan Smale, a.k.a. Psychic Frog Enjoyer, for anyone who knows that name from Discord. These teams are at 5-1. This is going to be a clean win and in for the winning team. I don't know if the losing team will be sweating breakers. I think that's probably...
Yeah. So, yeah, a loss is like potentially still alive, but dead inside. But if they are in the top 8, they'll be playing it a bit more upset than they would if they would have won.
Yeah. I think given how many unintentional draws there are that did win out, I think this is probably going to be a win and in and a lose and out.
And our first casualty of the matchup is this poor sleeve. JLS having a little trouble fitting it in. That's a trick I've not... Oh, an inner sleeve swapping. That's a... I haven't seen... We're working... Here we go. As we... This is it. And, a technique I haven't seen before, using another card to sleeve up a card. But hey, if it looks stupid but it works, then it's not stupid.
That's a Pro Tour difference right there.
Yeah. And then you've always got to rip up the sleeve once it's broken.
We didn't actually get to have a look at Nathan's hand, mainly because of all of that kerfuffle, but he did win the die roll on the right here. It looks like both players keeping.
As we see a bunch of, there we go, a whiteboarded Once Upon a Time. That's how old that card is. It was printed back before the modern border.
Yeah, in fact, the time that they're referencing was a very, very long time ago. It was a different time. And it matches the whiteboarded swamp that we saw there. But Nathan going to take Barragoyf here.
Once upon a time, there was a Barragoyf. That's his first turn. Going to lead off with a Missing Rainforest. Crack it. Does he have a...
I assume it's a Dryad Arbor, right?
Oh, it's getting a Dryad Arbor. Good turn 1 play.
So I expect Trop, Dryad Arbor. It could be Savannah or... no, it's probably Trop. Yeah, it's probably Trop, Dryad Arbor.
Nathan also not forgetting to shuffle in his Green Sun Zenith.
We love that.
It's got to go back in the deck. And everything's above board. It has been done so.
It's pretty unfortunate that the other Zeniths weren't playable.
Yeah.
You know, because then I think people would not be forgetting to shuffle in their Green Sun Zenith, but it happens all the time.
I mean, my White Sun Zenith control deck is not really taking off in popularity, so that's probably why. But other than me, I mean, everyone's only playing the green one.
So JLS going to get to see the hand with a probe here. Going to take some damage. We'll see if he's hoping to kill this Dryad Arbor, maybe fire off a discard spell.
He does have an Unholy Heat in hand.
Okay.
Probably not going to... Although, knowing Nathan's hand, maybe not looking to... what's he going to do? Cast a Duress. And now he doesn't necessarily need to kill that Dryad Arbor. That Unholy Heat can be saved for later on with a more impressive target. Perhaps a Barragoyf.
Nathan Snap putting his Dryad Arbor in with his lands just to tilt me specifically. Thank you, Nathan.
Volty has been untilted.
I'm really glad that my microphone's coming through just to Nathan's earpiece that you can see if you look under his hat on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a pretty critical turn. JLS has 2 types for Delirium, so Unholy Heat pretty unlikely to tag this Barragoyf. And if he kills the Dryad Arbor, that's going to give a creature to grow that Barragoyf, and it's going to be connecting for 4, maybe 5. I think it's 5, because there's an artifact and a sorcery and an instant. Yeah, that Barragoyf is enormous if this Dryad Arbor dies, so I assume... Yeah, is playing a creature. Barragoyf now a 3/4.
But Death Touch and Lifelink, so can't necessarily... Oh, gonna opt to trade here.
I think that's a pretty reasonable snap block there. Barragoyf has, Barragoyf's ability to generate resources is much quicker and more efficient than Tassiger's, activated ability of 700 mana to draw 1 bad card.
It's just 4. Calm down. The card's really good, all right?
Look, I prefer my Delve threats to have flying and kill people, much like the Murktide Regent that is in JLS's hand. He's hopefully going to deploy that in a couple of turns, but at the moment, Nathan has cycled his walk, he's got a bit of damage, and his hand is really empty. So this is the turn to start applying pressure, maybe hold up a counterspell if possible, or cast 2 cantrips.
Yeah. Just spinning the wheels at the moment. There is a Murktide Regent tucked away in the corner of the hand there for JLS. That's a pretty good one.
Looks like he's keeping a frog for later, but he does have a land on top for Sheoldred. Hasn't snapped off the heat on the Dryad Arbor. I think the difference between 5 and 4 mana is pretty negligible. The difference between 1 damage and no damage is also pretty ignorable. But I wouldn't be surprised if the heat gets fired off in upkeep, specifically for natural order. And he wants to see what the Surveil does and not give Nathan that information before firing and committing off to that spell.
And
no upkeep stop. Just gonna trust the process.
So he does.
No. Okay.
And it's further tilting us. It's not being sacrificed, but it looked like it was getting sacrificed, put into the lands, and then put back into the red zone. As a Time Walk gets cast from that Eternalized Witness, or whatever the heck.
Timeless Witness.
Timeless.
Once upon a time, Timeless Witness, Time Walk. I'm sensing a small theme here.
Yeah, it's a fairy tale. It's a Timeless Witness. Very powerful card. Very neat addition to this deck.
Equal getting fired off here post-combat. I'm surprised he didn't want the Dryad Arbor for this turn. Trying to think what he'd be getting. Because Spellseeker isn't necessary, so he's getting Frog. Okay, that explains it. Yeah, because I guess if you keep the Dryad Arbor mana, it's like pretty awkward to go get a Eternal Witness with Equal. And committing to the Frog and applying pressure and forcing your opponent to have more answers and figuring it out later.
E-Call being Eladamri's call.
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Shorthand for that card. Took me a mile. I was thinking, like, is this a new email, but it's now an e-call?
Yeah, it's the little green button with the white phone symbol.
Ah, yeah, there you go.
It's what they rebranded Skype to.
Yeah. As we see JLS, he saved that Unholy Heat for a more potent threat later in the game.
It is not on.
It is not. So giving Nathan the option to discard a card to more or less counter this Unholy Heat, but then...
I believe it's a plow, right? Oh, no, it's an ephemerate. That's what it is. Okay.
So
that is a massive swing.
Yeah, that's a blowout right there. As
I thought it was a Swords to Plowshares.
No, it was, and that was known information for JLS, which must have, would have set some alarm bells off for Nathan. Which is like, hang on, he knows about this, and JLS did have a plan all along. I think Nathan was a little forced into that play.
He's so low on resources, and it's, it would be in line with JLS's brand to fire it off anyway without it.
Yeah. Maybe just use his mana. And also, 1-for-1ing. It's still 1-for-1 regardless, but then gets to untap and slam a Sheoldred. That's how you play cards, by the way. You slam them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not particularly a fan of the overuse of the saying slam for every card. Like when it's every card, at some point we're just playing cards. Why does everything have to be a slam?
I think Sheoldred warrants that.
Yeah,
label,
Sheoldred warrants a slam. That's a big slam.
Yeah, I mean Sheoldred is the owlbear from the top rope for the 2.5 people that will understand that reference.
Yeah, but when it's but when you're play a slam an island and then slam a preordain, it's just like, calm down. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
I think Brainstorm and Recall are probably the only cards that can be considered slams in terms of one. Oh, okay.
As this Deadpool, really good card, don't you think, Violet?
I am fairly confident. Now, this is a hot take that Alec is setting me up here for.
Yep.
I believe in 3 to 6 months, we're going to see Deadpool moved exclusively to the sideboard. And in 1 to 2 years, it'll be removed from some of those sideboards. I am of the opinion that everyone else is wrong, and I cannot wait to rub it in all of your collective faces.
I, however, have a different opinion. I think this card is like Bitcoin in 2010. And in 10 years' time, you're going to be sitting on a monster. The only problem with Deadpool is how insufferable Deadpool enjoyers now are going to become. Diamond hand holders of this card are going to be sitting richer than rich. They're going to be pooing money from all their Deadpools that they've collected. I think this card's great.
I think it's very interesting that Nathan would play out the Underground Sea. Now, I don't disagree with having the 7th mana and being able to block with the Timeless Witness and Eternalize with it. I am curious why he would play the land out and reveal that information here. There's no escape cards, there's no mana sinks.
Is there a Colligan's Command perhaps he's playing around?
But I mean, yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, we've got a Murktide coming down. JLS has successfully turned the corner. And
it's only an 7/7 though, not the full 8/8. It could probably get bigger though.
That means Nathan wins this game, right? That looked like a Preordain that was going to get slammed.
Yeah, slam a white-bordered Preordain.
Take some more damage from Sheoldred.
Yeah.
Continue losing. E-Witness, that's a good start.
Yeah, that's one you slam. Top, bottom.
I think the other one was a Verdant. Definitely not a slam.
And slams the Eternal Witness.
So this will get Ephemerate. I mean, if JLS is stone cold, Nathan has 2 draws to pull this off.
Yeah, he has to find a way to not die to his own draw step.
I mean, it's as simple as hitting a Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, but easier said than done. Yeah. Just draw your 1 of Swords to Plowshare. Easy peasy.
Drown in the Lock notably will not count as a removal spell he can draw because of that Psychic Frog.
Yeah.
And also because JLS has 1 card in graveyard, but mainly the Frog.
So it's interesting. There might come a time, like his last turn, he might get a Birthing Pod back. And I wonder if there are any 5 drops. Does this deck play Swords to Plowshare?
It does sometimes. It does sometimes play a Solitude. It definitely plays Swords to Plowshare.
Sorry, Solitude. I misspoke. But a Solitude could be fetched by cracking the tapping the Birthing Pod to crack the Timeless Witness. That would be an out.
I think the 5-drop they usually play is Overlord of the Baelmerk.
I do believe they played that. It's whether or not they also play...
There is a Metamorphosis at 6 and a Traxxer at 7. There is no Solitude in the main deck.
So that's not an out.
He could get Sheoldred off the E-Witness, and that would offset the other Sheoldred.
Yeah.
That is probably the line he's going to take if he plans on taking infinite turns, which would require him to buy back the E-Call or the... I mean, He could equal for the Shieldred, and that is cheaper than the pod line.
Yeah.
Especially considering he is on 4 life and Birthing Pod will be 6 mana for this play. So
Yeah, can't afford much life paid for the Birthing Pod.
I think there's a line here.
Yeah, so have another turn.
So he's going to go to 2.
Also, the Failure giving another blink, so that could be another trigger. Draw a card, lose some life. Now the question is, does he have it all figured out?
So he has 7 mana total.
Also, does Failure, when does...
End step.
End step. Oh, yeah, not in JLS's turn. So it doesn't, the Failure doesn't answer the...
No. The Strand will put him to 1, so now he has 8 mana total. Equal is going to cost 2, Ephemerate going to cost 1, Shieldred is going to cost 4, Walk is going to cost 2. I think he's 1 short, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Nathan working it out now. Yeah, he potentially is just short. Very interesting here, because just curious to know what outs he could have. This Shieldred just being a pretty powerful lock piece.
Now, this is an interesting heads-up play. Nathan opting to rewind his Tundra that he's fetching with Flooded Strands, specifically so he can look through his deck and figure out what outs he has.
Yeah.
Very heads-up play. Yeah, that's still a Tundra. That's a Bayou. Can't get that one.
You can't actually get that one.
This is unfortunately going to cause a second headache when he does get the Bayou and realizes that he can't get it, and he has miscounted his black mana for the 3rd time.
Oh, GRV, watch. Here we go.
3, 2,
Oh,
1.
JLS letting him know. What? He's not actually getting it. Oh,
no, he was. He thought that JLS was pointing at something else.
Yeah.
Or,
This is... yeah, so now you're actually priced into taking that Tundra.
Can't get the Swamp. Can't get the Forest. I would feel uncomfortable in JLS's seat with how long this fetch, quote-unquote fetch, has taken, but that's just me.
Yeah.
All right.
We've found the Tundra. That part...
We have still not finished resolving this Flooded Strand, and we are at 3 minutes and counting. You know, as a thought. But no, we are committing to the Tundra. We are shuffling and presenting. I still maintain that Nathan is short a mana here for the expected line. There is possibly another line that could be involved here, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it matters.
Yeah, so this...
So he's gonna flicker the E-Witness and Ephemerate the Timeless for a turn, and use the E-Witness to get the E-Call to play... Oh, I think he's thinking about E-Call to get Bone Man, to use Bone Man in upkeep before the Shieldred trigger to make a copy of... What's in his graveyard?
Yeah, this is too complicated.
I don't think he has this. I think he thinks he has this. But I'm fairly confident he doesn't. I'm looking forward to being wrong.
Yeah, this is...
It'd be a first.
It's always tough late in the day as well. We've been playing a bunch of Magic for 2 days. You want to be sure that you're not just dead. You don't want to... You're playing with teammates. You don't want to scoop a game that you might actually have locked up. So, all brain power. His brain is a supercomputer, overclocked right now. He's working it out.
He's using so much brain power, his hat fell off. Did you notice that? I missed that.
Yeah. He's, man, that's a lot of brain power. That's max speed. And now the Eladari's call. Also,
The way he's tapping his mana suggests he's getting bones. Especially because I think he brought it forward at some point.
yeah, you want to be very careful with all your mana. How you tap.
Oh, he wants to get Emperor of Bones to attack with a Baragov, but that's not gonna do it. I've literally lost track. Does Nathan have a turn in pool? I don't think he does, right?
And he scoops it up. Doesn't have the out.
JLS gonna take game 1.
Wow, that was so close. Unbelievably close.
I'm not sure it was.
Oh, it was close to having infinite turns. Of course it was close. But we did see the power of Deadpool there. AKA
Did
Bitcoin. Bitcoin in card form.
Deadpool
Buy
in that
now.
game was 4 mana, kill your Baragov.
Yep.
That was it. That was all that happened.
It was a kill your Baragov and then attack with a lifelink Death Toucher.
That killed the Baragov.
Yeah. That's on rate, or if not better than a Paragoth, which is pretty good.
So, okay. So it was 4 mana.
Yep.
He copied a Baragov. He then attacked into said Baragov the following turn,
Yep.
which blocked. And so for 4 mana, he killed a Baragov and gained the amount of power that a Baragov would have.
Yeah.
That is Consuming Vapors. That's what that card is.
I don't know what Consuming Vapors is.
That is a 3 and a black. I will bring it up on screen. That is Consuming Vapors right
with
there.
Rebound. Actually, this card's hot.
This card is better than Deadpool in this spot because you would have been able to tag a second creature.
Well, that's just ridiculous. Although this card is sweet.
Oh no! Deadpool's worse than this because it gained 1 less life than it would have.
Also, Consuming Vapors would have just made Nathan sacrifice a Dryad Arbor.
No, because his Dryad Arbor at that point was in his lands and not in his battlefield.
You're right.
So it turned off and stopped being a creature momentarily.
Using hiding it against him.
I mean, it worked for that guy that did it against Nassif. You know.
No, that didn't work. That worked. The guy that with it in its lands only. It was only upside for him.
Anyway, getting back into the match, both players. It looks like they've decided on how they're sideboarding. I would expect it to be pretty minimal boarding from JLS's side. You get to bring in a little bit of graveyard hate, but for the most part, that's not really the axis that you operate on. From Nathan's side, I would expect, a carpet of flowers, maybe a couple of blue elemental blasts, maybe a deluge variant, for example, if he wants to operate on that axis. But historically speaking, Grixis brings in 3 to 4 cards, Walks brings in 4 to 5 cards, and that's kind of how it is. Both of these decks are very, very resilient against sideboards. That is one of the big draws to them.
Yeah.
They both use the graveyard, but not enough that some of the graveyard hate is meaningful. They both use creatures, but they also can win without said creatures. They both interact on the stack, but not enough that, having a full group of counterspells is going to be meaningful. Critically, JLS brought in Price of Progress.
Yeah. Wow. I think it's because JLS doesn't want to play much more Magic.
But if he draws with Price of Progress,
then
he's going to have to play more Magic.
Well, he can cast it whenever he wants. So if it were to draw, he can decide not to cast it, which is that's the move. If you think you're going to draw with a Price of Progress, please don't cast it.
So you're saying JLS is bringing in a card specifically so that in the middle of a game, he can mulligan a card?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Just clarifying.
Yeah.
So
we're all clear here.
So JLS has taken out one of his 60 main deck playable best cards for your main deck. This is what I'm registering for a green 3.
Yeah, I reckon. Or
that's a skill diff. That's the bus stop difference right there.
Yeah, like a adult play fighting with a kid with a hand behind his back.
I mean,
Or
it
could
would
just-
be a flex for the last round of Swiss when you're playing teams and you have 2 people on your back to go, you know what? I'm going to side in 15 cards. Some of them are Uno cards. Miss Mavis is in there. And we're just gonna beat you anyway.
I think turn 1 this game, James Larsen wants to guard Nathan and say that that Nathan is the princess.
Exactly 3 people understood that reference. Which is, in fairness, half a person more than my BG3 reference earlier.
All right, and we're going to see Nathan take a quick mulligan. JLS, pretty happy with his 7, I think. I didn't get a good look at it.
I mean, it's Grixis. All of your 7s look the same, and they are all keeps.
Yeah.
That is, honestly, one of the biggest draws to Grixis, in my opinion, and this is for people at home. The fact that you mulligan never means you have to shuffle for start of game less.
Yeah.
Now, you do have to shuffle plenty of times in the game because of the fetch lands, but every time you shuffle during a game, you are shuffling less cards because you have other cards. When you're shuffling at the start of the game, that is the maximum 60, and that makes your hands the most tired.
Ah, yeah. It's an endurance thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, okay, look at JLS. Do you not think he's thinking about the 0.00001% EV play of not mulliganing?
Yeah, I think JLS's brain is a supercomputer, and he would be thinking about all of that.
Nathan typing into his forehead to try and reach his own brain center to work out if he wants to keep this hand. It looks pretty sketchy, but he is going to keep.
Seeing some basics.
There is a forest and a swamp and a bunch of blue cards and a white card. And
this price of progress that may or may not have been boarded in could be an Uno card.
Yeah, JLS could play Deadpool as a 3 and a black sorcery from Rise or Drowsy that has no text in modern day Magic. And his price of progress at the moment will be 1 and a red, take 2 damage. Over the course of the game, that number is going to go up.
Yeah. So
Nathan rips a Lorien reveal to get blue mana. Is he firing off this brainstorm? This is a weird timing.
yeah, that's very interesting.
I understand Loriening to get an island to play the island. I'm not convinced firing off this brainstorm is the play. It does get to protect you to an extent from daze, because if he does daze, at the very least, you're not getting 2-drop next turn, but there's nothing he can draw into that he'd be able to cast here, right?
I don't think so. I don't believe the Walks deck is playing any baubles.
Oh, no, that's why he's brainstorming now. See, because he brainstorms, he gets to pick up his hand, because now it's unknown information, which means he gets to flick his cards.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
That's heads up.
For sure. JLS has the opportunity now to look at both players' top of the library with Mishra's Bauble in hand and a Surveil land just happening right now.
So I see an Ashok, a Reanimate, a Thoughtseize, a Shieldred, and a Push.
Ooh,
And he's going to make a Barrowglyph. That's pretty good.
Your Barrowglyph, sucker.
So now the pressure's on Nathan to both draw Deadpool and a red source and a black source.
Yeah. That would be pretty
It's
good.
doable.
It's pretty good here.
He only has to cheat 3 times for that line.
Baleful Strix.
Strix is better than Deadpool at blocking Barrowglyph, I would say, because you get your card immediately.
Okay.
And you spend less mana.
Yeah, but there's no like meta 4th wall breaking with the Baleful Strix. Deadpool, on the other hand, does that. Gets to look right in the eyes of the camera and say, oh god, he's right behind me, isn't he?
Okay, in my
like that.
defense, Baleful Strix's art does stare down camera middle.
That's true.
It is looking right at you.
But more in an artsy way. And not
Quoth the Raven.
yeah. Is that an artsy way or a 4th wall breaking way? Is the Baleful Strix breaking the 4th wall?
I've never thought about that, and I'm glad I did.
As we see a Thoughtseize on the stack.
Unfortunately, this means Nathan has to put his hand back down.
Yeah.
So once again, return of serve, JLS taking the initiative, getting his opponent's hand back on the table.
And also JLS taking the Eternal Witness, which could get back the Brainstorm. So now Nathan can't pick up his hand and flick his cards. Unless if he goes, you can just write them down, please. I want to flick my cards.
That is the most plus EV play, is socializing 2%. So to tell your opponent something and ask nicely if you can pick your hand up.
Your Baragoyf lets me get back my Ragavan. This has been an awesome reanimate by JLS.
He doesn't have a red source, and he did miss a land drop.
Oh.
And the Ragavan is on the table and not in his hand. There's a lot of factors at play here. This is very back and forth.
But that was a lot of value was going on, is what I'm saying.
And it looks like we're going for Binding and Keen-Eyed.
We're doing all sorts of shortcutting.
Yeah, there's a lot of shortcutting here. It's entirely possible James could have had anything, but it looks like he had actual nothing and also no red mana. So he's just going to be playing a frog and saying go. And critically, his only bit of interaction at the moment is a misstep, which will not protect his frog.
Yeah, would not protect from that prismatic ending that he doesn't know about.
It would protect his Ragavan if it was in play.
Yeah.
So perhaps if he could connect with a Ragavan to make a treasure token to get red mana to cast a Ragavan, that would potentially put him back on the board.
As of right now, Keen-Eyed Curator is the only creature on the battlefield, keenly eyed, looking at the types in graveyard.
I imagine we're going to tag some spells and did not attack. Just missed 3 damage. That's okay. No, there's a Ragavan face up. He wants to be able to block. Yeah, that's okay.
As again, Nathan is forced to play with his hand on the table because of the Gitaxian Probe.
I think that's why Grixis is so good. You play 3 to 4 discard spells and a Probe and a Mishra's Bauble and an Urza's Bauble, and you have Brainstorm in your deck to pick your hand back up.
Yeah. Well, every deck has Brainstorm in it, so against the Brainstorm meta, constant information is, we see a Timeless Witness.
I mean, this one's for chat, but I think that's why I have to point Brainstorm.
No. All right, joke's over, gang. All right, shut it down. We've got to stop the funny business. I'm also talking to a member of the committee here too, so this is not funny anymore, guys.
It's pretty funny for me.
Yeah, I was afraid as much. And also, getting to eat something up. Trying to get all the instants and sorceries out as soon as possible.
Pretty reasonable. Any particular reason?
Yeah, the Murktide region cares a lot about instants and sorceries, and after a Murktide region resolves, which is something JLS could cast here, unlike this Ragavan, after the Murktide region hits play, Keen-Eyed Curator probably doesn't want to be exiling instants and sorceries from JLS's graveyard.
You could tag your own.
Yeah, if you wanna.
The Deathrite is gonna make red mana and be spent on generic cost for Shielder of the Apocalypse. She's back. Once again, Nathan's best draw is red mana and a Deadpool. We'll see if he finds it.
A pretty awesome moniker to have, the Apocalypse.
He finds a Carpet of Flowers. That's the red mana he needs.
Ooh.
He's halfway there.
Yeah, halfway there without breaking any rules of Magic the Gathering. That's pretty cool.
So far, we have hit 2 of the cheating barriers without having to cheat.
Yeah.
So the third one is Deadpool breaking the 4th wall, making it on top of Nathan's deck, going into a sleeve.
Actually, no, it's just going to get mental misstepped. Interesting sequencing that way. As we see, that's a tight play there. The Baragoyf entering back into play under Nathan's side as Nathan bounces his own domain leyline thing.
Leyline binding.
There we go. Thank you. Means he gets his Baragoyf back, means he's got a leyline binding in hand, and all of a sudden, Sports State looks a lot better for Nathan.
In saying that, for that line, he did have to take a bunch of damage because of the Shieldred.
Yeah, true.
He is going to be taking some amount of damage moving forward as well. He does have the Teferi emblem to protect him. I say emblem, but, you know. He does have a Baraglyph to start cracking in, which is nice.
3 cards off the top from JLS, none of which are red sources.
That's fine. He just cast a red spell. How many more red spells could he have? I mean, the deck is called Grixis, but only because Deathrite can make red mana.
Yeah. As we shuffle up the known cards. Are they known cards?
I believe there is 1 unknown and 1 known card.
Ah, okay. Gets the known card. Oh, yeah, that's a...
Yeah, that is unfortunate for James, not being able to get Nathan's last card in hand back on the table.
Yeah, it's brutal.
He doesn't have great flick equity at the moment. He does only have 1 unknown. But when he draws this card, he will have a good 30 to 40 seconds where he can flick 2 cards. And that might get him back in the game.
Yeah. As we see just that, as he flicks around a Green Sun Zenith and a Shieldred. 2 very powerful cards.
Oh, he drew a Shieldred. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So Binding going to tag the Baraglyph, which implies that he's going to be cracking in with his. But he is eschewing casting Shieldred this turn.
That's true. And then could...
This is 6, right? There's a Baleful Strix and a Carpet. This is 6, right?
There's no way of knowing.
That is true. Yeah, James wisely packing up his graveyard, so it's just a bauble, therefore shrinking the Baraglyph.
But they're going to trade the Apocalypse and a Lurgoyf.
It's a pretty good Lurgoyf.
Yeah.
I would say it is in the top 17 Lurgoyfs.
Yeah, it's right up there.
It's pretty close, but you know.
And he does remember to uptick his Teferi, which means he has access to an instant speed Green Sun Zenith.
Oh, is that his card in hand, Green Suns?
Yeah, Green Sun Zenith and
wow.
Shieldred.
He can get a 2-drop. That could be anything.
Could be anything. Could be a boat, which I could also afford.
It could be a Mana Dork.
Yeah.
It could be a different Mana Dork. It could even be a 3rd Mana Dork.
As we see,
Deathrite making red mana for this Ragavan. JLS at this point has made 3 red mana and cast 2 red spells and has 4 lands in play. And if I'm not mistaken, these are the only lands in the deck that cannot make red mana in some capacity. I think there's a Watery Grave, and that's it. Everything else would make red.
Yeah, that or maybe the Bayou, if they play a Bayou.
I don't believe they still play a Bayou.
Are they playing a Swamp?
No.
They're not playing Juzza's List?
There is a Bayou, there is not a Swamp. Okay.
You're right.
Oh, and a Sanctuary. Yeah, this deck is so bad. How do people cast their red spells?
Clearly, with a Deathrite Shaman. And
so, Nathan Green Sunsing in response to the Ashiok because of that Teferi tick-up.
Use it or lose it.
And guess what? He got a Mana Dork.
He got a Mana Dork, baby.
I was, in fact, correct. Not with my first guess, my second guess, but, you know.
Yeah.
So, Ashiok milled some cards, exiled the graveyard, which shrinks all of the Baraglyphs that are dead.
This Keen-Eye Curator could have Reverse Delirium, Nether Delirium.
That sounds like a really bad disease.
Yeah.
Delirium in your nethers? I don't know if I want that.
Your bits are crazy.
I especially don't want that if it's connected to a raccoon.
And we're going to see a Shieldred now. What was yours is now mine, because I've got some of them as well.
Is there a word for a second apocalypse? Because the implication is that the first one does the job.
No, but now it's my apocalypse. As we see Nathan take that one.
Is that
down.
an Evanescence song? That sounds familiar.
That does sound. That sounds like should be like an emo band's song. My apocalypse.
And
your apocalypse is over. Now it's my turn.
No, that's a Fall Out Boy song.
Yeah, Fall Out Boy or Panic at the Disco.
So Nathan gonna bring his Apocalypse to that middle match, and now we are one apiece. And as we can see here, at least one of the other matches is still going. Ben and Fred taking a snack break here in the bottom. Wow, that apple is getting demolished.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Uh,
How close to the cork you reckon he's going to get? We're going to say he's had a bite which has gone right to the seeds there. He's having
that
a
is
look at it.
strong energy.
Yeah, that's or no, we're going to.
I believe.
As we see,
This is the other match, and it's over. I think the match is over.
If we could get a shot back to that apple biting. Yep, there we go. I'm going to see how much of this apple gets eaten up here.
JLS and
Here we
Nathan
go.
shuffling up.
Did he eat the whole thing?
Okay. Stop the presses.
Oh.
Where is the core of that apple?
He just ate it up.
That's the third apocalypse we've seen.
Man,
that is the darkest day that could have happened all
crazy.
weekend.
That's powerful. Can you imagine you lose to someone in Magic and they just eat a whole apple core right in front of you?
I'm literally speechless.
I'm dropping on the spot if that happens. I don't care if my teammates are in contention. That's incredible. We're getting confirmation from our producer now that the core got eaten. Eaten.
That's how distraught you are. That is how shaken we all are to the core, pun intended. We've got
you know what? I'm going to have to give it a go.
No, you don't.
No, this is a don't knock it till you try it.
I want to knock it, and I want not to try it.
Yeah.
However, in saying that, I have been wrong about these things before.
Yeah.
Someone told me about cereal and orange juice, and I thought about it.
Oh, yeah?
And then I thought about it. And it's been 17 years, and not a day has gone by where I haven't thought about it.
Wow.
But I still haven't tried it.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't like cereal.
Oh, yeah, that'll be it. But as long as time goes on, eventually that will be a path you must cross. Cereal and orange juice don't run parallel to you in this lifetime. They're on a different path. You two potentially could meet. As we see Teferi hit the board turn 2 off a ignoble hierarch. JLS's first play was a mental misstep on that ignoble hierarch, which then got misstepped back. As we get back to the match at hand, I'm not talking about eating apple cores, which if you think about it, it's just more apple with some pips. I ain't afraid of no pip.
Okay, but a chip packet is more chips.
Yeah, well, but it's not made out of the same ingredients as the chips, whereas the apple core is still the same ingredient.
Okay.
If you were eating only the chip and then throwing out the bit that you were holding onto,
I do that.
Whoa, okay. All right, that's a different kettle of fish.
I don't like fish.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a problem? I do like kettles.
Yeah. Well, just eat them then. As we see a connive trigger happen off a massacre.
In fact, I do like kettles, the chips.
Yeah, they're great. They should sponsor the next one.
Yeah, and speaking of how we're massacring this bit, there is a massacre on the stack about to tag this hierarch.
Yeah, imagine a massacre going on and this book nerd connives because of it. That's messed up.
I mean, speaking of meat, that shredder is shredded.
Yeah.
And, Teferi's abs very skillfully covered by a dye at the moment.
Yeah. A brainstorm getting put on the stack. Back to shuffle equity. Nathan's loving life this round. He gets to shuffle and flick around his cards to his heart's content.
As soon as the Thoughtseize gets put on the stack, though, shaken.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, couple of interesting...
He's keeping a Once Upon a Time in his hand.
It's still hey, I still say it's still a fine card. Even if it, messes with the narrative to halfway through the story, interrupt a story with, because it is an interrupt a story with Once Upon a Time.
I think that was season 4 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Actually, once upon a time, somewhere in the middle of the story, is that sort of like a Christopher Nolan thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched Tenet backwards and it didn't make sense.
Ah, yeah. I watched it forwards and it didn't make sense. But it was really cool,
What
though.
we should have done is watched it together.
Yeah.
And then met in the middle.
Yeah.
And then swapped.
Yeah. And halfway through, we got cross-eyed, which is just like a side effect of watching that movie. And then...
So Overlord gonna trigger the Shredder, and then gonna trigger itself.
Yeah.
And get back a Hierarch.
Overlord's so scary that a Ledger Shredder connives. As we see...
What does it really mean to connive?
That's a very good question.
Because I'm sure that word means something.
Yeah.
I just don't know what that is.
Siri, what does connive mean? Secretly allow something immoral, illegal, or harmful to occur.
Oh, you do that to me all the time.
I did not. Wow, that's a big shredder. He's been conniving a bunch, and now we know what that means.
Simply so shredded.
Yeah. As a delighted halfling, the draw for Nathan.
So Nathan has a blue elemental blast for the Quarry Steel Cutter. He has a delighted halfling for...
Being delightful.
Yep. Just to improve his mood.
A once upon a time for the Nolanism. Actually, when the once upon a
Grist
time...
the Hunger Tide for his teammate.
Yeah. He's got everything. The story is about to unfold here, and the music's about to get louder, and all the audio is going to be impossible to understand in a true Christopher Nolan fashion. Goated movie producer, by the way.
Director.
I'm sure he'd be good at producing as well. But right now, the known quantity is his directing skills. I've never watched so many bad movies that made me feel really cool after watching them.
Yeah.
Because they're not great movies sometimes. But afterwards, after walking back to your car from the cinema, you're like, what if everything was backwards?
I do remember thinking about Interstellar on the way home and going, I was really pensive and I was really stuck in my own head, and I realized that I was really hungry because that movie was 4.5 hours long.
Yeah.
So we've got a halfling and a grist here. We're going to trigger the shredder for the 7th time? 8th time? I've lost track.
At least 3, at minimum 3 times.
I believe this is the 4th.
Oh, 4th time. There we go. All right, well, 3 minimum. It's sacrificing. I thought it was jump blocking. Ooh, submerge. Can't be delighted about that, mate.
Can he sack the grist? Is he allowed to do that?
No, it's not a creature on the battlefield.
But can you sack planeswalkers?
I don't think so. As we see a lightning bolt. Was that a lightning bolt to draw? He has a lightning bolt in hand, JLS. Lightning bolt on a holy heat and a different, I think, I don't know. Lightning bolt getting cast, targeting, could be targeting.
No, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
As we see JLS wrap it up, a flurry of spells to finish off that one there.
And a flurry of triggers for the Quarry Steel Cutter.
Bunch of triggers.
Which I really hope is what that mechanic is called. Well, that didn't make sense.
Flurry?
It's called flurry, right?
Yeah. Not milk flurry. Don't be confused.
Look, we need to stop talking about food.
Yeah.
For many reasons.
Well, we're talking about ice cream when it's cold is, that's fine, right? And is that all? That's it. We're done there. So that means that Team Tram Stop, I believe, takes it down. Sorry. Again, I caught waving to someone as they're walking past off camera. So yeah, that we saw pretty tight match there. Some tight play from JLS.
I mean, Nathan played very well as well.
Yeah.
He just kind of got stuck on dying to a shredder and couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
He had a blue blast. He had a grist. Yeah. He had a couple of other potential removal spells, and none of them mattered.
Yeah. He was able to assemble the infinite time walks in game one. Unfortunately, too many draw steps with Sheldred in play meant he couldn't actually win that one. So, yeah, just actually quite just like barely squeaking through GLS was there. Super sweet magic.
Yeah, I mean, if you take infinite turns, you do draw infinite cards.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But game 2 was pretty convincing, I would say, in Nathan's favor. And then game 3, honestly, was kind of anemic. You know, there was just a couple of spells cast, and all of James's ones mattered.
Yeah.
And some, if not none of them, from Nathan's side mattered.
Yeah.
He kind of just kept playing cards until he was dead.
Yeah.
Which does sometimes happen, but I think it's a very important factor here is that New Age Grixis, modern day Grixis, does have the ability to just kill you.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, and you know, I'm saying back in the day, it was 3 months ago, you would play against Grixis, they would kill you with creatures, and if they didn't have creatures, but you were on a low life total, you were probably fine.
Yeah.
Because they had a lightning bolt. And then a year ago, they started having Sheldred as 2 points of burn. And that was it.
Yeah. But
And
now they have Deadpool, which shoots them for 3 a turn, or you shoot yourself for 3 a turn. Adding up to a lot of reach for this Grixis. I'm telling you, Deadpool, great card. Buy now.
I mean, it's shooting me for 1d6 psychic damage, that's for sure.
As long as it doesn't get any emergency points, that card's going to go up and up and up in value. This is financial advice. Mortgage your house.
This is
if
not
you have
financial advice.
If you have a house, take out a loan, buy Deadpools. It's gonna. You're throwing away money by not doing this.
I wish I could be taken out alone in this segment. But yeah, I think with Corey Steel Cutter, with having more haste creatures, with the price of progress that people are playing.
Yeah, that one ends games too.
Having the ability to simply reduce your opponent's life total from a number that is more than 0 to a number that is ideally less than 0, but it can be 0.
Yeah.
Doing that is pretty good. Like, it does in fact have a correlation with match points.
Yeah.
I don't understand the physics behind that.
Yeah,
it's something that I'll have to look into.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the connection.
Yeah, maybe Bill Nye would know,
Yeah.
or Neil deGrasse Tyson. We might have to call them up.
Yep. Alrighty, that'll do from us here in the booth. That's it from the Swiss, and when we come back to you, we'll have the top 4. Right now, we only know of Team Tramstop, but who else is there? Well, we're excited to find out. But that's it from us.
We'll see you all next time.
See ya.